Hello and welcome to Minus the Hangover, the NoLo Drinks podcast that reaches the parts other podcasts can't reach. With me, Christophe Phillips.
And with me, Pete Mason.
If you're new to Minus the Hangover, every episode we taste and review 3 different no and low alcohol drinks and offer our honest and unabashed views on them with one simple qualifier. Would we part with our hard-earned cash ourselves and buy them? Giving them, therefore, a thumbs up or a thumbs down. So that could be beers, wines, spirits or ciders, but also adult soft drinks, or rather grown-up soft drinks, because putting adult in front of anything makes it sound, well, a little strange. It's not that sort of podcast, folks. It's not that sort of podcast. Not only do we give our views on 3 different drinks each week, but we also dive into a particular aspect of the NoLo drinks industry. So in episode 1, we discussed what this very podcast is all about and crucially what it isn't. And there was plenty to get into on that front. Episode 2, Pete, you guided us through exactly what's going on with the pricing of NoLos.
Yeah, basically the fact that they're the same kind of price as standard drinks and the kind of justifications that producers give and whether they're valid or not. And I'm not going to spoil
being
it.
The case,
well, I'd rather not spoil it, quite frankly, so people have to go back and listen to episode 2. So
indeed.
I'll edit that part out of the podcast, Chris. Don't you worry.
Yeah, that's fine. In episode 3, I talked us through the complex, yet dare I say compelling reasons why NoLo drink sales are so booming these days, while in episode 4, Pete, you gave us both barrels, as it were, with the ABCs of ABV.
Indeed, and it's fairly straightforward. One's counting the alphabet, the other one's alcohol by volume.
Well, it's true, but actually it was something I didn't really know about, and you did elucidate it with skill and aplomb, dare I say. It was very nice. And suffice to say, folks, those episodes are well worth checking out if you haven't already. Last episode, however, we did something a little different. Our first 2-part deep dive, exploring the history of NoLo drinks, from the dark ages of, well, the dark ages, past the tea and coffee craze of the 17th century, through the small beers of the Industrial Revolution, and into the tumultuous 20th century, with the rise of cocktails and so much more. And this week, dear listeners, we'll continue that journey, picking up where we left off in the 1980s with the birth of the modern era. But first, Pete, what drinks do we have on the drinks menu today?
Our 3 drinks this episode. First of all, we've got the 0% Golden Ale, St. Peter's without gold. Mm-hmm. We're then looking at a French lager shandy. It's Saint-Omer Panaché. And then finally, we've got a mocktail, and it's the J2O White Peach and Mango Daiquiri.
And the very first of those, I shall be guiding us through imminently with St. Peter's without gold. Okay, so St. Peter's without gold. Now, this is a 0.0% beer. It is a golden beer. It actually characterises itself as a malty golden beer with pleasingly subtle citrus notes. Now, as I say, 0.0, it's brewed in Bungay in Suffolk, and it's proudly certified by the Vegan Society, but it does contain barley, therefore gluten. So, Pete, I think actually we should just get straight in. Let's open it up and see what we think.
Sounds good.
Okay, so first impressions is it certainly is very golden. It's quite pale, actually. It's a little paler than I was expecting it to be.
There's a reasonable amount of carbonation in there. I've got a slight head, which is sticking to the side of the glass.
I don't have much of a head, actually, at all. I'm just giving it a little swirl, and it does build up a bit. The smell lifts off. It does smell quite malty. It's quite pleasant. It doesn't smell particularly citrusy or fresh or, those sorts of notes. It's a little bit deeper, which is a little bit confusing because of the pale colour. The smell doesn't quite match the look, to me, at least.
No, I'm guessing malt, but I'm definitely getting some citrus hops from there as well. It's a little bit lemony to me. As we've said on many occasions before, taste is so subjective, taste and smell.
Absolutely. So let's go in. Let's give it a taste. There is actually a little bit more citrus in the taste than I was giving it credit for in the smell. But it is very malty, and it's got quite a nice, almost warming kind of malty feel to it. It's quite biscuity, it's quite comforting, it's quite homely.
I think it's really good. There's a reasonable amount of body in there. The mouthfeel is relatively thick for a zero NoLo beer.
Yeah.
Absolutely getting the biscuity malt. I'm getting the citrus hops. It feels really balanced because there is sweetness in there. Not too much, but it's really well balanced by the bitterness to my taste.
Yeah, it's funny because to my taste, the bitterness isn't coming through. It's there, but it isn't coming through as much. It does feel on the sweeter end of things.
I really like it. I think they've done a really good job. I have actually tried this before, but it was a few months ago and I can't remember what it was like. All I can remember was that my impression was, it's all right. And so I'm pleasantly surprised. Maybe it's the way that I have managed my expectations on this, but I think it's really well balanced. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I'm with you, actually. I think the mouthfeel goes a long way to really bringing that experience to it. It does feel thick and satisfying. It is balanced. For me, slightly on the sweeter side rather than the bitter side, but pretty balanced. And it slips down very nicely, and I find myself going back for more.
I've already had most of my glass, I have to say. So I've had almost half the bottle just in the time we've been talking, and that's only been a few minutes. It's a good sign.
I did find it for £1.50 at Morrison's. It's on the brewery's own website for $15.95 for 8 bottles. That's £2 a bottle. You're better off going to Morrison's. St. Peter's Without Gold was launched in July 2017 as the brewery's second alcohol-free beer. Introduced to offer a fuller-bodied alternative, they say, to the popular Without Original, providing a golden ale with citrus bitterness to appeal to lager and ale drinkers seeking non-alcoholic options.
I'm not a massive fan of their standard beers. I've had quite a few of them over the years. They're kind of fine. I find them a bit dull. Maybe it's the fact that it's harder to get decent ales which are NoLo, particularly zero like this, that maybe my standards are different for this as compared to the standard beers. But either way, I really like it, and I will be looking for this in the future, definitely in the supermarket.
It's funny because they actually refreshed the recipe in 2020. They say to appeal to a wider range of customers. I don't know what was wrong with it in the first place. They do say that they wanted a beer that was more hop-forward aromas and subtly improved taste characteristics.
So it's definitely fair to say that the industry has moved on since 2017, and that is both in the NoLo sector and also beer taste in general. The average beer drinker has definitely got a hoppier kind of palate than they did back in 2017.
For sure.
And then similarly in the market for kind of NoLo ales as well, the quality has moved on massively as well. I mean, particularly obvious in lagers, but also in ales in terms of the hoppier ones and in terms of trad ones. So yeah, if you had a beer which was kind of competitive, a NoLo beer that was competitive in 2017, it probably isn't now. Yeah. Although they're a bit vague about what changes they've made, essentially it's going to be more body, maybe a bit more bitterness and more hoppiness. I think that's pretty much what it's going to be.
So, what do you think, Pete? Let's get to the scores. Do you like it enough to put your hard-earned cash down on that counter, buy it and drink it yourself?
The body is great for a NoLo beer. It's really good. I think it's very well balanced. It's got sweetness and bitterness, and I always love that in a drink. There's pronounced citrus hop character both in the smell and in the taste. Overall, it's great. And for £1.50 a bottle in the supermarket, I think that's a bargain. It's a resounding thumbs up.
Ah, well, there you go. Very nice too. Okay, I'm a little bit on a different page with you on this. Now, I do think it's good. I think the body's great. I think the maltiness comes through. There is a bit of bitterness, but it comes across to me as pretty sweet. It's not a beer for all seasons. It's a beer that's a specific one, a NoLo that works for me probably more on a sunny day than in the evening, just sort of curling up with a comfy beer. I don't know.
Do you want a bit of sunshine in your life, though, in the evenings?
I do, and that's nice, and I'm saying I quite like it for that, but it doesn't hit all the buttons all the time for me. I don't know. So, look, I'm going to give it a thumbs up. It is positive, but it's very sweet, and that sweet for me is overriding things a little bit. So a slightly tempered thumbs up.
So that is 2 thumbs up for St. Peter's without gold. The second drink we are drinking this episode is Saint-Omer Panaché, or Saint-Omer Panache, as I have always known it. So, yes, it is a shandy. So, panaché is actually the French word for shandy. It is, in the same way that radler is the German word for shandy.
See, I knew about radler, but I never knew. So when you say someone's doing something with panache, you're actually saying you're doing it like a watered down, overly sweet version of the thing that you actually want.
Apparently so.
Who knew?
Who knew? As the name suggests, it is from France. It is from Saint-Omer, which is kind of near Calais. The brewery itself is called Brasserie de Saint-Omer. It comes in a 250ml bottle, and it is a low alcohol product. It says it's below 0.5% volume. And yeah, it's a shandy. Why are we doing this? We haven't really done a shandy yet, so we thought we'd give it a go. It's not in the soft drinks aisle, like Bash Shandy or something like that would be. It's actually in essentially the grown-ups or the NoLo drink aisle in the supermarket as well. So here we are. Shall we open it up?
Oh, my expectations. Let's see. Shandies and radlers, they can go one of two ways for me. They can be pleasantly surprising, or they can be not brilliant. And let's see what we think.
Well, let's not count our chickens, Chris, honestly, this country. Colour-wise, it's kind of a pale gold again. It's completely clear. There's a reasonable carbonation. And I don't know about in your glass, Chris, but mine has got very, very little head on it.
I've got a little bit, actually, and I've got pretty good carbonation. I think the signs here look really positive. It really looks the part. It looks nice and bright and fizzy. And going in on a smell, well, it smells, it has that slightly lemony edge that shandies or panachés do. But it smells pretty bright and fresh. That's not a bad start for me.
So I can smell lemon. I don't really smell much malt, to the extent that I don't even know if I'm smelling any malt or if I'm just imagining that I'm smelling it.
Well, it doesn't quite smell like a lemonade to me. So there's definitely something else going on, but I agree. There's not a lot of beeriness jumping out either. But does it with a shandy or a panaché or a radler? I don't know.
Good question. Should we go in on the taste?
I think we should. Actually, just before that, one thing to note. The smell is dissipating pretty quickly out of my glass. I keep going back for another one, and I'm finding it harder and harder to find it. So it was very fresh as it lifted off, less so now. But yes, let's have that taste. Yeah, yuck. Thumbs down.
You're not a fan then, Chris. I don't know, something about what you're saying leads me to believe.
It started so well. It looked the part, and it sort of smelt the part, even though that was disappearing. It tastes very artificial to me. Not just lemony, but like the cheapest lemonade, and not just sort of not giving what a beer does because you've turned it into a shandy. It's left the worst aspects of it, almost a soapiness, with that cheap lemonade. Oh, I don't know. I'm going to give it another taste.
Yeah, so the overwhelming flavour is definitely lemon. I completely agree. I think it's kind of artificial lemon rather than lemon juice or something like that. It tastes like cheap lemonade. And again, there is a touch of maltiness to it, but it's not like normal shandy where it's basically half and half beer and lemonade. Yeah. This is almost like, I don't know, a fifth beer and 4/5 kind of cheap lemonade.
So the thing is with a shandy, you water it down with the lemonade, the beer, or the lager rather, but it retains an element of the body that comes from the lager as well. This doesn't have that. This is really thin. Really thin. I mean, almost like thinner than lemonade is. It's weird.
It's very sweet. It's certainly a lot thinner than you kind of expect, other than the kind of the syrupiness you get from a very sweet kind of lemonade. It's not my cup of tea, like, at all.
I think in its own way, it's kind of quite refreshing, because really cheap lemonade has that cloying kind of sweetness that hits the back of the throat and sort of lingers and doesn't go, and it isn't very pleasant. This is sort of so thin, if you like, and it is lemony, that it doesn't have that. So actually it's fairly light, it's fairly refreshing in that it isn't cloying. I mean, I'm reaching here, but that's kind of the best I'm getting with it.
No, sure. I think from a sweetness level, that's fine. I don't like the lemon flavour in there. I have to say I'm not a fan, but shall we just talk about the drink itself whilst we kind of ruminate and have our final opinion in a minute?
Yeah.
So in terms of the calories, there are 50 calories in each 250ml bottle. Mm-hmm. There's 12 grams of carbs, and that's basically all sugar. So there's about 3 teaspoons of sugar in there. It's probably vegan. It's not labelled as such, but it probably is. It's certainly not gluten-free. There's barley in there. But I suspect it's technically gluten-free. In other words, I suspect it has under 20 parts per million of gluten, because very pale lagers do. And as I say, I think this has been watered down with lemonade massively. So I would be very surprised if it had enough malt in there for it to count as being. I mean,
it's almost a homeopathic version of what a shandy is. It sort of maybe contains the essence of what it once was.
Indeed,
but there's not a lot of the beer or the lager left in that.
No, absolutely. So as I say, technically not gluten free, but probably is maybe. In terms of the ingredients list reads as if it is just some lager added to some lemonade. So it's got lager, so water and barley and maize and hops, and then it's got carbonated water and essentially sugar and a few flavourings. It does include natural aromatic extracts, which...
Interesting.
Well, indeed, which I think means natural flavourings, but I don't know why they're calling it that.
Lost in translation, maybe?
I think possibly. So natural flavourings is kind of a regulated name in terms of food labelling, whereas I did a quick Google for natural aromatic extracts, and I could only ever find it in aromatherapy oils.
We're back to the homeopathy again.
Well, absolutely. Yes, and I suspect it's just a mistranslation, because in French it's something like arôme naturel. Or like sabor natural, and both of those are on the side of the bottle. And I think someone's just used Google Translate and thought, oh, it's natural aromatic extracts rather than it being natural flavourings.
Close enough is good enough. Yeah.
Indeed. So in terms of the price, it's cheap. I'll give it that. It is £2.60 for 10 bottles, so 26p per bottle.
That is very cheap.
It is very cheap. It's only available in Morrison's in the UK, although you can get it in French supermarkets. Apparently you could get it on Amazon as well. And it's had like literally a couple of hundred of reviews. And it's got like a 4.5 out of 5 score. So, right. Really? So are we the people who are wrong? Or is it all of these other people who are wrong? We're not out of touch. It's everyone else in the world who shops on Amazon.
Well, look, I mean, we've talked a lot about how taste is subjective, and that's completely fair. We've also talked about, even in this episode, how tastes change. You can never say that other people are wrong. All I can say, and what we've always said, is we can only give our honest and unabashed views on it.
Very true.
I am amazed that anyone would score this, to give it a genuinely high score. I'm amazed by that.
You tend to find that with online reviews, so it's all either 5 or 1 star, and there's often very little in the middle. So, I like it, must be 5 stars. Yeah. In terms of the brewery who make it, they're a legit brewery in northeast France. They're about 30 miles from Calais. It's Brasserie de Saint-Omer. They're actually established in 1866.
Oh, okay.
So they've got a lot of history behind them, and they've gone through like a variety of owners over the years, including Heineken at one point, although it's actually independent now and has been for the past kind of 15, 16, 17 years.
Okay.
So they're absolutely legit, and you will find their beers in French supermarkets, and you find their beers also, again, in Morrison's in the UK, but I've never had them, so I can't make any comment on their quality. So, yes, a panaché, which is how they're describing this, typically it is 50-50 beer and lemonade.
Yeah.
As I say, I don't think this tastes like it. From the ingredients list, it doesn't seem to me that they have essentially brewed a lager and then taken the alcohol out and then mixed it with lemonade, essentially. I don't think they've bothered with the taking the alcohol out part. So to take it down to 0.5%, from, let's say, a 5% lager, that means you've got to dilute it by a lot, which is what it tastes like to me.
Okay, I see where you're going, yeah.
So in terms of my reflections on the drink now, we've been talking about it for a few minutes. I've not got a pleasant aftertaste in my mouth. It's kind of a little bit sort of sweet and artificial lemony. I don't particularly like it. I think if I was going to have something similarly kind of refreshing, I'd rather go for something like a Bavaria. So, it's not a shandy, it's not lemony, but it's a little bit sweet, more lagery than this as well.
Yeah.
I would much rather go that end of the scale, or even mix another NoLo beer with my own lemonades rather than this. I think on the plus side, this comes in those cool little stubby bottles. So it is very reminiscent of those kind of like cheap French lager stubbies that you just associate, don't you, with like a sunny summer's afternoon or a holiday or something really like that. Yeah. I think that's a really kind of positive connection that you can make with this. And so I can sort of understand that element of its attractiveness.
You're right. It needs that sunshine. It needs you kicking back on a deck chair or in the garden and surrounded by people with a bit of music on and some nice food to munch. Yeah. That's the only context I can see this making any sense. You're not going to get in from a difficult day at the office or whatever, I really need something, and open this up, and it's just not going to hit the touch the sides.
Oh no, it's a panaché. It's all I've got.
Imagine this is how the movie Falling Down happens. Okay,
yes.
Let's go in on the votes, Pete.
After you.
Well, okay. Do you want me to go first?
Absolutely.
My first instinct was that it was yuck. I've softened slightly to it because I think there's a couple of slight positives out of it. It's not cloying like cheap lemonade is, even though it has that kind of cheap lemonade-y taste. It's slightly thinner and weirdly more refreshing, therefore. And it's cheap, and that matters because there's not loads of things on the market that you can get for 26p a bottle. So that's a little positive, but overarchingly, no, I don't like it. I don't want to pay even 26p a bottle for it. It's not that I don't like any shandy, because sometimes I can. This one I don't like. It's a thumbs down.
Yeah, I agree. There's always an opportunity cost when it comes to drinking, regardless of the actual price itself. Drinking this rather than almost any other NoLo beer that I've had is just a mistake, basically.
It doesn't scratch the itch that a NoLo needs to scratch, because they emulate, in lots of senses, alcoholic drinks, and we know the sort of itch that they can scratch, and a lot of NoLos are really successful in doing that. For me, this one doesn't do it.
Yeah, I think the thing that this does emulate is basically those little cans of Bash Shandy that you used to drink as a kid and think, I'm drinking something really grown up. That's what it tastes like to me. And so for that reason, I'm giving it a thumbs down.
Wow. Okay, 2 thumbs down for Le Panaché from Saint-Omer. So now we're going to pick up on our regular feature where we take a deep dive into a certain subject, a certain aspect of the NoLo drinks industry. Last episode, we took a deep dive on the history of NoLo drinks, starting way back with, well, the distinct lack of non-alcoholic drinks. Water, yes. Milk, sometimes. Ambrosia, if you're a Greek god. And yes, as I said, there were certain teas and curdled yak milks, etc., from other cultures that I excluded, as I had to take a British perspective, and teas, for example, were largely consumed for medicinal or druidic or ritualistic reasons, not for pleasure. Well, at least not as far as I could find. Moving forward, we saw the rise of small beers and noted the controversy there with how we even classify them beyond a vague weak beer, but that definition probably works fine for us. We saw how these became popular with the growth of towns and the relative and ever-shrinking scarcity of clean drinking water and the difficulties with transporting water, etc., whereas small beer was, yes, more expensive to produce, but could, being sterile thanks to the small alcohol content, be transported from the breweries in the countryside to towns and cities with relative ease. Look, there's a lot to this part of the story, so make sure to check out part 1 in episode 5 if you haven't already. It's well worth it. We then moved forward and saw how the arrival of tea and coffee in the 1650s certainly spiced up the drink scene, but didn't prove to be too much of a threat to the pre-established alcoholic drinks available, namely beers, ciders and wines, because what was good about tea and coffee, the caffeine, was also a drawback in that you can't drink it all night and ever expect to sleep. We then raced through the last few centuries looking very briefly at the advent of soft drinks like Coca-Cola in the Victorian period, although these were quickly seen as kids' drinks due to the sugar content, then to the introduction of fruit juice and non-beer bitter flavours, to the often nasty spirits made in secret during Prohibition in the 1920s and 30s in the US, and how the new trend for cocktails jumped the pond to UK shores. Then a potted history of how tastes and social mores changed during World War II into the 50s and 60s with the rise of the teenager, which sounds like a terrible straight-to-DVD movie, but was a real thing that the world survived, and into the heady dinner parties of the 1970s, bringing us to the dawn of what I call the modern era of NoLo drinks in the 1980s. Phew! And that's where we pick up our story today. Pete, there's a lot to unpack there, and there was in part 1. But after that speedy recap, any thoughts, any reflections?
So I think you ended it at a really good place. I think it's essentially at a bit of a hinge moment where up until the 1970s, there were lots of alternatives to alcoholic drinks, but there weren't the analogues to alcoholic drinks. And all of a sudden in the 60s, and well, rather the 70s, I suppose, you get the versions of alcoholic drinks, mainly beer, that are alcohol free. And so that's a real kind of turning point, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, that is completely my thinking why I divided this history up into 2 parts. One is very much like, there are things you can turn to if you really want to carry on drinking without any alcohol. But it's a very different thing to purposefully make something that emulates that drinking experience that you get with beers or wines or ciders, and to market that on a mass scale so that people have more choice. It's a sea change or a hinge point, like you just said.
Absolutely.
Okay, so where I'd like to actually pick up from today is from a comment I made way back in episode 3, where I gave that old British NoLo stalwart Caliber a fair amount of stick for being, well, not great. And for something of it was something of a reluctant choice. That's how it was seen. Now, in many ways, I stand by that, particularly looking back now as we are from our contemporary standpoint with our wealth of NoLo drinks available. And some of them are amazing, as we've been discovering week on week.
Very much.
But I'm going to return to Caliber in its very own feature profile in a later episode, because
you're a brave man, Chris. You're a brave man.
Well, I genuinely think it's worthy of our respect. And of course, all the NoLos that exist today are standing on the shoulders of giants, with Caliber being the biggest of them all. I kid you not. So, without going into it too much now, Caliber was a big deal in historical terms, but, I think it's fair to say it didn't exactly set the world on fire at the time, at least not with consumers. In fact, it was always seen as something of a reluctant choice, as I've touched on before. And this remained the state of play for the rest of the 80s and well into the 90s. And incidentally, this is the period where our own experiences, me and you, Pete, our experiences of pubs and drinking started, being children of, well, for you, the late 70s, and for me, well, the very start of the 1980s, actually, coming to age in the era of Britpop as we did. So for us, this may be less a look back through history and more a glimpse through a nostalgic haze, or a haze caused by other means, shall we say. But from a historical perspective, nothing else much happened to the drinks world until around the mid to late 90s, when those pesky Europeans threatened to destabilise the whole drinks industry. And no, before we get overly political, I don't mean the EU.
Ooh.
So, as context, we need to take a minor diversion to talk about a consumer organisation founded in 1971, a veritable institution that placed itself at the very front lines of a battle for the British soul many people hadn't even noticed was taking place. Pete, any ideas what organisation I'm talking about?
Well, since this is a NoLo Drinks podcast, I'm guessing it's not Mary Whitehouse.
It's not, no. Although that was kind of around in the 70s.
It was, absolutely. And it was very much a battle for the British soul in her mind.
No, I'm thinking a little bit more of a kind of movement of the people, actually, of the common man. Well, I'm not even going to characterise it anymore. I'm just going to tell you.
Go on.
CAMRA, the Campaign for Real Ale.
Ah, yes, okay. I didn't realise it was that early, actually.
Well, neither had I. But for those of you unfamiliar with it, CAMRA was set up by a group of friends, actually, who kind of bemoaned the state of English pubs and what was happening to traditional ales. In fact, let me read you their mission statement because it goes a long way to explain. Our mission is to promote and advocate the production, availability and consumption of quality real ale, cider and perry. To advocate pubs and clubs as social centres and part of the UK's cultural heritage, and of course the benefits of responsible social drinking. Now, this matters because, as I said, it was the Europeans that were a threat. Specifically, European lagers started coming in they'd been coming in kind of through the 80s and all that, but really in the 90s it started taking off. I'm talking Stella Artois, Kronenberg, Heineken, Carlsberg, there may be others. It really started to displace what had been before. So those European lagers coming in, small scale at first, but a veritable flood by the end of the 90s. CAMRA, the Campaign for Real Ale, was launched to protect the traditional British ale, including bitters, stouts, a few IPAs, etc., even ciders and perries. So without getting too drawn into a history of CAMRA, although it's a very worthy story, CAMRA set about to publicise the importance of ales and affirm their rightful place as a cherished part of British culture. You see, ales really were in danger of dying out. So prevalent and so popular were these new European lagers. And CAMRA itself was hemorrhaging members and the member pubs that actively championed their ethos. This only got more dire as a new wave of drinks came in around the mid-90s. So, Pete, fingers on buzzers.
Indeed.
Jump in when you can guess. These drinks were fruit-based, sugary, often loaded with colourings, marketed at the younger end of the alcohol drinking spectrum. I mean, I'd say almost marketed at kids. Go on in.
I'm guessing Alcopops.
Alcopops, well done. Very good. Yes,
very good.
I was going to add they were cheap. They were often sold in multi-buy deals with a snappy, fun, in inverted commas, almost portmanteau catch-all name. Yes, Alcopops.
I remember them very well from drinking in the mid-90s. I remember them coming out, yes.
I remember them coming out. I'm not sure I actually remember the taste that well. I don't think I was a massive fan at the time, but it's that overly sweet thing, I suppose.
Absolutely, and that's why I wasn't a fan either. Yeah, far too sweet.
Indeed. The first of these was Bacardi Breezer in 1994, followed by Smirnoff Ice, remember that? VK Blue, WKD, Two Dogs, Hooch.
Hooch, of course, yes.
Yeah, which I always thought was a good name, actually, for a drink. Anyway, it wasn't just Alcopops. New shots like Aftershock and 2020, things that you can shot at the bar, with new and fruity flavours once again becoming the norm. These came in, they stormed in and kind of turned everything on its head. Now, all this matters to the NoLo story for two reasons. First, it forced pubs as well as producers to do something they hadn't done in a long time. Try something new as a matter of survival. Now, this doesn't mean they immediately embraced NoLo's, far from it. They perhaps saw it even as more of a threat than it had ever been. But they did start introducing new styles, such as milds and light beers. I say new, these had been around for centuries, but producers and pubs now spotted two untapped niches they could sell to: the non-drinker and the confusingly named low drinker.
Oh.
That's someone who likes their drinks alcoholic but sugary, but it's not necessarily drinking what we would call low alcohol drinks today. That's why it's confusing.
I've never heard that term before, low drinker.
Yeah, I actually came across it a few times. It's a bit strange.
Yeah, interesting.
Used specifically in that to describe that period, and then dropped quite quickly afterwards. Possibly because it's just seems very pejorative, doesn't it? It doesn't seem very complimentary.
Oh, I see. Low as in kind of low standards as opposed to low as in quantity. I mean, who knows?
I don't know.
Yes,
low standards, low thinking. Who knows? I don't think they meant it in a nice way.
Not these idiots, drinking all this nonsense.
Yeah, you can imagine the shakings of fists.
Indeed.
So, while producers almost couldn't quite bring themselves to go all in on NoLos just yet, mild and light beers certainly filled that niche, and in a wider sense paved the way for acceptable non-drinking in pubs. Gone were the patronising pats on the back for ordering a calibre. The second reason this matters for NoLos is that it also forced pubs and producers to embrace new styles in a different way. You see, the rise of alcopops once again saw those fruity, non-beer bitter flavours coming back into the public imagination. The pendulum really does seem to swing back and forth with these flavours at least once for every generation. And with producers keen to basically try anything that might work, they started making what had previously and derisively been called fruit beers or exotic styles, in inverted commas, beers with a much, much fruitier flavour profile. Again, I don't want to get too drawn into that, but suffice to say, it was a response by the drinks industry born of necessity. From the threat on all sides from declining traditional ale sales, the rise in European lagers and the more complex flavour profiles drinkers had come to expect, and the threat from the alcopops that had flooded the marketplace and indeed flooded every nightclub from here to Ayia Napa like the nasty chemically concoction used in foam parties. Now look, there were outliers, of course. The 90s was the golden age of Nuki Brown, and Guinness remained an absolute heavyweight, a fixture in every pub and possibly every club too. But a lot of others were squeezed out in this period, which is one of the reasons Guinness, for example, became seen as the stout, not just one of many. All in all, the landscape had changed. Now, this is when I began working in pubs. Age 19 in 1999, straight out of college, literally the day I finished college, I go into my local, the landlord, Rick, big shout out, says, "What are you going to do now?" "Dunno, get a job, I guess." "Do you want a job?" "Yeah." "Can you start tomorrow?" "Yes."
Those were the days. Those were the days.
Exactly. Easiest job interview ever. So I started working my local, and I remember this happening, this whole kind of thing going on with camera, with the alcopops, shifts, and particularly with the European lagers as well. I do remember this. So, moving into the 2000s, camera was on its knees, but something amazing happened. The public, possibly thanks to the media, I mean, it's hard to kind of be sure how this happened, took up their cause and really began championing ales and stouts and bitters, and crucially, those resurrected milds and light beers producers had turned to in their hour of need. And just 10 years on from their absolute nadir, camera was booming. There was a genuine interest in that catch-all term, ales, and pubs started to see something of a resurgence. Once again, that pendulum swings.
Yes, a lot of these things are basically cyclical. I mean, fashions, tastes, they ebb and they flow, and it's kind of impossible to predict. A lot of it's just happenstance, I think.
I think it must be, because they try to predict things and they often get it wrong, but things happen en masse and the public decides, the market decides, if you will. So, as we say, the landscape was changed. Fruit flavours were now a normalised part of the drinker's palate, and that invisible barrier excluding non-drinkers and so-called low drinkers had been smashed. And that term will get smashed in due course as well.
Let's hope so.
Around this time, a third reason began to creep in, the rise of mindfulness. Now, again, I don't want to get too drawn into diversions, and it's always perilous framing a time period we lived through as history. But there had been a health and fitness boom growing ever since the 1980s. And by the 2000s and into the 2010s, an element of this had morphed or evolved into what we would now recognise as the mindfulness movement, a sort of more holistic ethos that, well, with echoes of the temperance movement a century earlier, in fact, embraced a sort of everything in moderation mentality, which, superimposed onto the clubbing and multi-buy excesses of the late 90s and early 2000s clubbing scene, meant far fewer drinkers would take drinking as far as they had once perhaps done so, and far more people were looking for non-alcoholic alternatives. Or to put it in a modern term you might recognise, Pete, mindful drinking. You familiar with that term?
I am familiar with it. I'm not a huge fan for myself, but it's one of those things, essentially, if it works for you, that's great. It's not a blanket term that you can apply to everyone who's drinking NoLo drinks.
Well, I think you're right, actually.
And sometimes it feels that is a blanket term that's applied, and I don't think it's accurate.
Well, I think the problem is that it means something slightly different to everyone who uses it, and therefore, yeah, like all terms, it's a bit tricky, isn't it? Anyway, as ever, nothing happens in isolation. With these factors all converging, the market niche for non-drinkers had been proven, and so, almost miraculously, Pete, almost like a miracle, money was suddenly available to tap that previously untapped niche. And
Makes
where
sense.
there's money, there's the will to experiment, innovate, and take chances on new products, and for those products to be rolled out to wider audiences. So in the 2010s, we saw the market surge with brands like non-alcoholic gin Seedlip, which, like Caliber, will be the subject of an in-depth profile in a later episode. And, for example, Kylie Minogue's alcohol-free rosé, evolving from niche products to ubiquitous options with celebrity endorsements.
I have to say that every time that I go to the NoLo section in my local supermarket, Kylie Minogue is staring at me from just above my eye line. And it's kind of like, I'm sorry, Kylie, I don't want to drink your rosé today. Maybe in future, but, stop giving me those eyes.
I mean, I use the term ubiquitous advisedly. It's everywhere. There's been a big push from the very early days, and it really is a part of it. We're going to have to get round to it, Pete. We're going to have to review it at some point.
If I must. Yes, no, very happy to. Absolutely.
We will. I was also going to mention, of course, we had the excellent Naseko, which we reviewed in our very first episode, which launched in 2017. So a lot of these things happening around the same time. This growth is characterised by a shift from simply avoiding alcohol to seeking sophisticated alcohol-free experiences that fit with modern, flexible lifestyles. And there were also advancements in technology. So developments in de-alcoholization and alcohol-free brewing techniques, which led to a significant improvement in the taste and quality of NoLo drinks.
It's massively improved. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it really has, really has. And that's one of the reasons we exist as a podcast, because they are worthy of reviewing.
I can't imagine doing a podcast based on kind of like NoLo drinks from 10, 15, 20 years ago. No. I mean, it would be very short, for starters, but it would also be just unremittingly grim.
A very short podcast that no one would want to listen to. Why would you?
What's that quote about the life of early man? Nasty, brutish and short. That's what Minus the Hangover would have been in 2005.
Harsh but fair. Harsh but fair. I want to give a shout out here as well to Dry January, which was founded by the UK-based charity Alcohol Change UK in 2013. And Club Soda, an organisation founded in 2014 that does good work supporting people changing their relationship with alcohol and advocates for better NoLo options.
Club Soda as well, they've actually got a shop in central London which is dedicated to selling, obviously, only NoLo drinks. So perhaps in a future episode we ought to do a little school outing.
I think we should. Minus the Hangover on tour. This is a great idea.
Absolutely.
Let's do that.
We'll put it in the calendar.
I also wanted to say that many drink historians of this period recognise what they term a shift to sophistication. That's their term. With the market evolving from sugary soft drinks to sophisticated alternatives like non-alcoholic spirits, Seedlip and Clean Co, and alcohol-free wines and beers mimicking the traditional drinking experience. This is what we've touched on already, how they're emulating other things, and it's not aimed at kids. It's a grown-up, it's an adult drinking experience. And that really matters. And that's why I added it right at the beginning of the intro for this episode. It is an important distinction.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Just a couple of other things to touch on quickly. We also get celebrity endorsements coming through. Now, Kylie Minogue, as mentioned, she's everywhere and her rosé is ubiquitous. There's also Spencer Matthews, who I want to say is from something to do with Chelsea. It's not my thing.
I genuinely have never heard that name before. I'm not even joking. Who is Spencer Matthews?
I think he's someone from, what's the Chelsea? I'm embarrassing myself.
The Only Way is, no.
That's Essex.
Yes.
Made in Chelsea.
Oh, yes,
Made
okay.
in Chelsea.
I've heard of it.
Okay. There's also endorsements from Tom Holland, the actor, Spider-Man, not the rest is history historian. That would be weird. They've all launched their own NoLo brands, elevating the status and reach of NoLos. Whether we know them or not, other people do, and I think it's fair to say that they have played their part in popularising and elevating the status.
If you're paying celebrities to endorse your product, you are putting quite a bit of money behind promoting it. You think there's going to be a market for it. And it is a sign of the maturity of the market, like you say.
I think it is, yeah, I think it is. Another sign of that maturity is that even the government is sitting up and paying attention. The government has formally recognised the potential of the NoLo market to help reduce overall alcohol consumption and related harms, as highlighted in the 2019 Advancing Our Health Prevention in the 2020s Green Paper. So this is a genuine government paper where they're looking cohesively into the benefits and the impacts of NoLos, which means it's not some flash in the pan. It's a proper thing and it's here to stay. So that's the thing. After a long march from the Dark Ages to now, NoLos really have found their place within the British cultural mainstream. And that's a good place to bring our history to a close, because from, say, the 2020s onwards, we truly are in the modern era of NoLos, with the absolute explosion of variety, brands, quality, availability, sophistication, and social acceptance that we see today. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I rest my slightly unwieldy historical case.
Very good. Yes, no, I think that's a really good summation of kind of where we are at the moment. Like you say, it has changed massively in the past few years, and it has become a lot more sophisticated, and both in terms of sort of the broad scope of what's being offered, but just the quality as well, and the experience you get when you taste them. It's not these kind of like one note drinks that just taste of one thing, kind of sweet maltiness if it's a beer.
That's right.
It tastes like a proper lager or whatever. It tastes something approximating wine or or whatever it is.
Yeah, it does. And I think another really important fact that we shouldn't gloss over, this is big. This is a big deal. Is that for the first time in history, there are things that scratch that itch that you get with alcoholic drinks that aren't alcoholic.
Sure.
There had always been, non-alcoholic things that could be consumed way back through history, but never anything that stood up against the alcoholic drink. And for the first time in history, we have that, and we have a lot of them, and they're good. It matters.
Yeah, it's easy to see just in the sense of how visible the drinks are in the supermarket, how often you can get them in bars and pubs and stuff like that. That alone gives you a good indication that it's a real movement.
Well, there we have it. The history of NoLo drinks, part 2.
Very good.
So, back to the third and final of our tasting reviews for this episode, and it's Pete with the J2O Mocktail.
And the final drink this episode is J2O White Peach and Mango Daiquiri Mocktail.
Ooh.
Indeed. It is from Britvic, who own the brand J2O. It is a mocktail, as it is labelled on the can, which is 250 mils. It says it's non-alcoholic, and there is 0 alcohol in there. In fact, there's not even an ABV on the side.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to try this because this is the first drink that we've had on the podcast which describes itself as a mocktail. We did have that Copperberg drink, which basically describes itself as just kind of like a non-alcoholic gin and lemonade and whatever else.
Strawberry and lime and chucking whatever in, but you can't taste any of it.
No, absolutely. So yeah, this is a mocktail. I have to say I'm not a huge fan of the term mocktail. I think it sounds a little bit kind of shabby. It sounds like it's faking it, if you know what I mean. I think it's like I don't like the name. It's like saying, oh, that's not a beer, that's a fake beer, or that's not a cocktail. It's an ersatz substitute. So like overall, I'm not.
I mean, imagine rocking up to the bar and saying, I don't require a beer. I would like an ersatz substitute, please.
Exactly.
And the blank face they give you. Imagine.
I mean, right, so I'm a realist. I have lost this battle against the name mocktail already. So I had a quick look. So I thought, it probably dates back to the 80s. It's not, it's 1936. Someone used it in a newspaper in the US. And it is a general term as well. It is in common use. So you can't, let's say, trademark it in terms of drinks as a general term. There was a company who tried to trademark it in 2019 for non-alcoholic drinks and they weren't allowed to. But trademarks, right, they apply on a per industry basis. So somebody has got a trademark for the name Mocktails. Can you guess what it is?
Mocktails. A band? Or dancers?
Yeah, I can see where you're going with that. No, it's not that.
A stunning new range of plastic flamingos for your garden? I don't know.
Could be. So it is hairstyling services. I don't know. Maybe it's like fake ponytails or something? I don't know.
Hair extensions, yeah.
Could be.
Who knows? It's been an episode of diversions, let's be fair.
I just want to just explore this for 1 second. So basically, although people haven't been able to trademark mocktail for non-alcoholic drinks, they have been able to successfully trademark variations on it. So they've done Knocktails with an N, and that's a brand of mocktails from Australia. So you can sort of see that, non-alcoholic mocktails.
Yeah.
Smocktails, which are smoothies and cocktails.
Oh, I thought it was going to be ones that are very good for throwing over that person who's really annoyed you at a party. You throw it all over their smock.
All over their smock. Wocktails with a W. I have no idea. Don't ask me. I tried to think of a justification for wocktails, but I really
It's got
can't.
a lot of soy sauce in it. I mean,
But again, this is specifically for non-alcoholic drinks. Wocktails, no idea. And my personal favourite, Focktails.
I mean, it had to come, didn't it?
What? F-O-C-K tails.
Wow.
No idea.
Okay. I mean, if it's not DuckTales, I don't want to know.
Indeed. Moving swiftly on to the drink itself. Should we open it up?
Yeah, why not? Let's go.
Colour-wise, I don't know what I was expecting. Maybe something kind of orangey. It's cloudy. It's very.
It's like cloudy lemonade, isn't it?
It is. It's very opaque. It is off-white peach, kind of.
I agree. It does feel from the can, which is very orange and kind of bright citrusy colours. It feels like it's the wrong colour. But that's fine. It's not a horrible colour. It just feels it's branded weirdly against the product.
It is incompatible. You're absolutely right. Yes.
Yeah.
If the can was a bit more pale, yes, I would be less confused.
Yes.
I'm a simple man.
It sets you up to be confused by what comes out of the can.
Absolutely.
It's not a good start.
No, let's have a sniff.
Okay.
Oh, crikey. That's immediately peach and mango.
A lot of peach. There is mango there. You're absolutely right. I'm not overly familiar with what daiquiri smells of, so I can't tell you if it's in there, but I'm just getting lots of peach and lots of mango. So
well, I mean, it's a type of cocktail, a daiquiri, but I've forgotten what's in a daiquiri normally. So I'm going to ignore the word daiquiri and just concentrate on the peach and the mango. And it smells exactly like that. It smells quite sweet, but not like massively so. It just smells very fruity.
It smells very fruity. And actually, it smells like actual fruit, not fake versions of a fruit.
It does.
I think that smells pretty good, actually. That's very inviting.
Well, let's try the taste. My first reaction is I was expecting carbonation, and there is no carbonation. But it is supposed to be a daiquiri, and cocktails aren't generally carbonated. So that's my fault, not the drink's fault.
No, I don't know if it is, though. It does feel set up that it should have that carbonation. It does feel like that, and it doesn't have it. And you're right that it doesn't have it, and it shouldn't have it. Oh, but it's odd. It sets you against the drink straight off, just like the colour does with the branding. Weird.
I think that tastes very good, though. That definitely tastes of peach and mango and just kind of general kind of like fruit juice, I suppose.
Yes, it does. Now, that's also my criticism of it. It only tastes like fruit juice. It doesn't have, like we did the kombucha, which has a bit of drying tannins, and the Prosecco that's got that kind of slightly drying quality to it.
Yeah, sure.
It's lacking that. So it's a very nice fruit concoction, but it's not really doing what a cocktail, and therefore what a mocktail needs to do, which is have a little bit more complexity, have a little bit more drying quality, something that invites you back. It feels like it needs some level of bitterness or something harder in the aftertaste. I don't know what, but it feels maybe even saltiness or something. I don't know. It feels like it's missing something.
So I think there's a touch of dryness after drinking it, just letting your sort of mouth sit. It's not too sweet, which I was slightly concerned about, given that essentially, it's a kind of a fruity drink. I can't taste any botanicals in it. It does say on the can with a hint of botanicals. And I think it's, maybe I just don't get hints very often, but, it's kind of, I'm not getting those hints whatsoever.
It's the sort of hint where someone waved at you through the window.
And I just blanked them. Yes, completely. Didn't even notice. So it tastes nice. It tastes of what I sort of expected it to taste of. So white peach and mango and fruitiness.
There are some real positives to it. Like you say, the sweetness is good. I don't really generally like sweet things or overly sweet things, as we've touched on quite a few times. And it doesn't taste overly sweet. It tastes pretty nice and balanced. It's got a nice body to it, actually. It's not very thin. It's a bit fruit juicy, You would expect a little bit of body coming through with the sugars and things like that. And I think it's fairly... This is going to be damning with faint praise. Fairly inoffensive. You wouldn't ever be given it and go, oh, no, that doesn't work for me, like the Panaché did. It didn't work for me. This is fine. It just also doesn't do some of the things I'm expecting or would like it to do, like I would want any mocktail to do, which is to have that drying quality, to invite me back for more, to have a little bit more complexity, and just have something that lingers beyond just a vague kind of sweet, slightly sharpish taste. There's definitely lime in there, and beyond that, there's nothing that's really jumping out as challenging my taste buds in any way.
Yeah, so there is a touch of sharpness, a touch of acidity, a touch of dryingness. But yeah, overall, it's very straightforward, 100%. So in terms of the drink stats itself, there are 45 calories in a can. It's got 9.5 grams of carbs, of which almost all of that is sugar, so just over 2 teaspoons of sugar. Mm-hmm. It is definitely vegan because it is certified on the can, so well done, Britvic. It is not labelled as gluten-free, but I can't see what contains gluten in there, so not so well done, Britvic. Next time, label it as gluten-free, please. In terms of ingredients, it's mainly water. There's 20% of fruit juice in there, and in descending order, that's apple, white peach, mango, and lime. So yes, you've got the lime in there, definitely. And then we've got sugar, and then we've got some natural flavourings. And they're natural peach, mango, plant, whatever plant is, and spice flavourings. So because it says natural peach and natural mango, that has to be derived from either peach or mango. Whereas natural flavourings themselves don't necessarily tell you where they're from. So and then just a few preservatives as well, including ascorbic acid, which is vitamin C. It's got a list of ingredients on there, but it's kind of what you'd expect to have this kind of shelf-stable fruity drink. It's just on the shelf in the supermarket. You don't need to refrigerate it or anything. So, there's a certain level of preservatives you need to go in there. Speaking of supermarket, it's about £1.30. And you can get it at pretty much every supermarket. You can actually get it on Amazon as well, by the sort of 12-pack, and that works out as being about £1 a can.
That's very reasonable.
For £1, I think actually, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. In terms of Britvic, who are the owners of the J2O brand, or actually since January of this year, they're now Carlsberg Britvic is their name.
Okay.
So as the name implies, they have been bought out by the Danish multinational Carlsberg Group. Now, Britvic it's a British company, and it started in the late 30s.
Okay.
And so Britvic stands for British Vitamin Product Company, or Britvic. Now, I don't know why they called it Britvic when Britvit Prodcom was right there, quite frankly.
Bit much.
No, I don't think so. So basically, before it became a company, there was this chemist who working in his little chemist shop on a high street somewhere, and he works out a way to add vitamin C, or ascorbic acid, and sugar to fruit juices to help preserve them.
Okay.
We're still doing that to this day. If you recall, this has got ascorbic acid in as well, which is vitamin C. So that's why it was called the British Vitamin Product Company at the time, because they were trying to preserve fruit juices by adding vitamin C.
Kind of fortified with vitamins, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. But not necessarily to make it healthier, just to make it shelf stable.
Okay.
Yeah, that was in 1938 that as a brand it was created, and it's had a very complex ownership history since then. Various breweries and PepsiCo as well has owned stakes in it. So like now at the moment, Britvic, or Carlsberg Britvic, they license Pepsi and 7-Up in the UK. So they kind of produce and bottle that. Okay. And also Lipton as well is a brand that they license. They don't own it, but all the Pepsi and 7-Up and Lipton, that's actually Britvic who makes that and ships it out to your supermarkets and stuff like that.
Interesting. Okay, interesting.
All of these multinational brands and companies they're very complicated. They're very incestuous.
It seems
it really is. But Britvic owns some brands as well. They own Tango, and they own Robinsons, as in the squashes, and also obviously J2O, what we're drinking at the moment. Now, J2O itself launched in 1998. In the UK. Can you remember it coming out? You were, 18 at the time?
Yeah, I can actually. As I say, I started working in pubs in 1999, and it was seen as quite a new thing.
Yes.
A new product, but instantly a big hit. And
yes, it was.
It really took off. Not only was it shelf stable, like you said, kids liked it, but grown-ups liked it too. It crossed the barrier. It did very well.
No, it did. And it was basically aimed at young people. And by young people, I mean essentially, late teen into early 20s.
Yeah.
And it was deliberately targeted at bars and clubs as a sort of fruity drink that you don't necessarily need to drink alcohol. So it's an interesting kind of like NoLo drink in its own right in that sense, in that it's an alternative. It wasn't a NoLo version of another drink, but it was very much pushed in that, alongside alcoholic drinks to have in a bar. I remember it very well and being a bit perplexed why they were selling kind of bottles of juice in the Roxy in Sheffield when I was there, drinking me hooch. So reflecting on this drink, I'm really enjoying it, I have to say. Somehow, through this discussion, I've almost finished the can. It's not a big can, but I don't know, it's quite moreish.
Yeah, so I am really torn with this one. I think it's trying to be a drink that isn't to my taste, and that's tricky. We've always said we have to review according to what we think, what if we would buy it, part of our own money. And, looking at the Panaché, I don't necessarily always like a shandy or a radler, but sometimes I do, and I think they're fine if it's a good version of it. I don't think the Panaché was a good version of a shandy.
I agree.
I think this is a fairly decent version of a mocktail, but it's not to my taste. So, look, a lot of people might find this absolutely fine. But for me, the negatives do outweigh the positives. I think it's lacking that drying quality, that thing that makes me want to drink more. It's fine, it's inoffensive, but it doesn't scratch the itch I want from a NoLo. Would I part with my own money for it? No, I'm not going to drink it again. It's a thumbs down.
So I quite like it. I think that it tastes like what it should taste like in terms of how it advertises itself on the can, minus the botanicals, which I can't really detect. And
it's a shame.
It is. And to be honest, I've almost finished it whilst we've been talking. So I would be a liar if I said I wouldn't drink it again. And at £1 a can or £1.30 in the supermarket, I think it's pretty good value. So I'm going to give it a thumbs up.
Oh, fair enough.
So that is 1 thumbs up and 1 thumbs down for J2O White Peach and Mango Daiquiri Mocktail.
So there you have it, episode 6 of Minus the Hangover. That's 6 episodes so far, with 5 subjects for our famous, even infamous, NoLo deep dives, with the very latest being 1 subject in 2 parts, as you've just heard. And as ever, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. But you knew that because you're already listening. See, they're not silly, our listeners, Pete. They're not silly. Please do also spread the word. You can follow us on X/Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, Linktree, all the socials. Just search at Minus the Hangover, all one word. And if you've got a question you'd like to put to us or a drink you'd like us to review, please do get in touch. We are here and we are listening.
And also don't forget, if you are listening to us on Apple Music or Spotify, give us a review, send us a comment.
So, Pete, what's on the drinks menu next episode?
We will have the very first Minus the Hangover wine special.
Ooh.
Indeed. So the feature will be essentially a bit of an explainer, the beginner's guide to wine, what it is, the history of it, how it's made normally, and by contrast, how NoLo wines are made. As you know, Chris, we had a quick mid-episode production meeting.
Indeed we did.
And as a result of that, we are indeed going to be tasting Kylie Minogue no alcohol sparkling rosé.
Dun, dun, dun. There we go, the big announcement. I know. Well, look, we mentioned it. I think it's only fair that we actually turn our attention to it properly.
Let no one say we're not nimble on our feet mid-episode. We'll also be trying Prosecco, still Merlot, so a red wine. And the third drink we'll be having is McGuigan Zero Sauvignon Blanc.
So there you go. Thanks for joining us once again with me, Christophe Phillips.
And me, P. Mason.
Have a great week and enjoy whatever drink takes your fancy,
minus the hangover.
Cheers then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So, Pete, this is After Hours. It's been a week since we recorded and we've both listened back. Well, what do you think?
Yeah, good. I really enjoyed that episode, and I did enjoy your history, part 2.
Thank you very much.
It was very comprehensive and but absolutely accurate. No, I really enjoyed it. I have a slight issue with my review of the J2O.
Oh, really?
In that I really should have done some research on what a daiquiri is supposed to taste like.
You know what? I made the same note when I listened back, so I think that's fair.
Indeed. So apparently a daiquiri involves rum. So if it were like a peach and mango, the ingredients would be peach and mango and rum, and maybe some like simple syrup or sugar as well if it's not sweet enough. So that's what it should taste like.
And lime juice as well, that's a part of it.
Oh, that's true. Oh, yeah, I don't know if you'd add that. Maybe you would, even if it was peach and mango. Yeah, maybe. I mean, certainly when we tried it, there was no hint of rum at all in there.
No. I mean, I kind of got the lime, but yeah, the peach kind of really overrode everything else, even really the mango for me.
Yeah, no, fair enough. How about you?
Well, you know, I had a strong reaction to the Panaché.
I don't think anyone noticed. I think it was fine.
I listened back to it. I went, I'm being a bit rash. And it was quick. It was a quick reaction, a quick thumbs down.
Sure.
But you know what? I'm sticking to it. It hasn't grown on me. I usually finish up the bottles or the cans or of whatever we've tried.
Yeah,
I didn't that one. I threw it away. I didn't like it. So I'm sticking to it. It's a quick reaction, but I'm going to stick to it. But I will say the J2O, that did grow on me a little bit. The Daiquiri mocktail. Not enough for me to change my vote, but
fair enough.
I said it was very inoffensive, but not unpleasant. And I'm going to stick with that. It's fine.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. One thing I forgot to tell you earlier on as well is that I double-checked Wikipedia because we talked about, in the first history part, we talked about small beer. So just out of curiosity, I went to the Wikipedia entry to see if it was still inaccurate, and it has changed.
Ooh. Oh, really?
Now, I'm not saying that it's down to me. It probably wasn't. But I'm going to take credit for pointing out
I think you should.
The inaccuracy. I've not actually checked the date, so it's possible it changed between us recording the episode and releasing it.
I tell you what, let's never check that date, and let's make the bold assumption that you have changed Wikipedia and therefore the facts of the universe.
Well, absolutely, or at least the Anglophone countries of the world, absolutely, who rely on Wikipedia as a...
Interesting, though. Interesting that it would change right when we're doing it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But otherwise, I think that's all I've got for the episode. How about you?
Well, one very small bit, and it's just to give another shout out, a second shout out to Sober October and anyone taking part in that. This episode's going out on the 16th of October. We're right slap bang in the middle of it. So if you are taking part, well, I hope it's going all right for you. And if you're not, but you know other people who are getting involved, maybe it's inspiring you to think about it for next time. So it's just a shout out for those doing it. Wishing you all the best.
Very nice. Absolutely. Ditto.
Other than that, yeah, that's everything from me.
Awesome. Nice one. All right. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers then. See you later, Pete.
Bye-bye.